Well, welcome to Mondays with Maples, and even though it's not Monday, we tend to post these on Monday, so Mondays with Maples. And I have two guests here today. I'll introduce one, and then I will let him introduce his guest with him, Jack Walker, who's the department chair in the Geomatics department here at Oregon Institute of Technology. And Jack is actually an OIT graduate himself before going off to Purdue, which we'll overlook with me being an Indiana University graduate.
That's right.
But Jack went to Purdue and got a graduate degree there, and then has come back our direction, and we're delighted to have him here as department chair. Jack, who have we brought with you?
Well, thank you, Chris. And this is Hugh Thompson, Geomatics graduate in this term. And Hugh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
You can call me a super senior. I've returned to school, working on my second bachelor's. I'll be graduating at the end of this term. I was involved in the NSPS team. And I'm also the outgoing club president of the Geomatics Club here on campus.
Cool. All right, so I'm in high school. I've never even heard of geomatics. What is geomatics anyway, Jack?
Well, our profession for centuries was referred to as surveying or land surveying.
Okay.
And in the 1980s, technology began to change so rapidly that our profession is different than it used to be. We do things we never used to do. We have computers. We use satellites and satellite imagery, satellite positioning, and some very advanced computer applications. So eventually, surveyors begin to realize that this is a different profession now. There's components that we still do, the traditional component, but there's all these new technologies. So around the globe, surveying is now referred to as geomatics, which is a French word for mathematical geography. So we work with the surface of the land, but at a very high level of accuracy. So we work with centimeters and millimeters and with the land surface. So that's geomatics. Now, our challenge with geomatics is that the high school seniors never heard of that word. They don't, probably even never heard of a land surveyor. That you drive across bridges, you go to doctors, so you understand those professions exist, but there's nothing that lets you know that geomatics or land surveying is a profession.
Okay.
So most of our graduates have done different things, kind of trying to find a home, trying to find something that fits, and then by accident they find out about geomatics and say, ooh, that's what I'd like to do. So I think we have some of the most active alumni on campus. And they all come in and say, I've had a wonderful career, thank you, it's been great, and don't know what else I would have done. So the challenge for us is just to make the high school student aware that our profession exists.
I will second that about your alumni, by the way. Some of the first alumni that I got to meet once I started here at Oregon Tech were geomatics alumni. And they wanted to make sure that we were going to continue to build on the tradition of geomatics here and the great success and the reputation that the university has in this field. And it really does.
It does, yes. Yeah.
Okay, Hugh, are you a accidental geomatics major, as it were?
Yeah, I am an older student, you should say. I had a friend that I graduated from Oregon State that actually was a civil engineer / land surveying, and I was involved in the baking industry at the time, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, and he's like, well, come work for me, see if you enjoy it. And so I started working for him, being a party chief and also a drafter, and I really enjoyed it. And the part that sucked me in is surveying as a whole is all about problem solving. You get a puzzle that you have to work out and figure. Get a solution, so to speak, and that's what really hooked me. And being able to come back to school and get my bachelor's and work towards my professional stamp has just been a great stepping stone for me.
Very cool. From Jack's description, it sounds like geomatics has gone from much more of an outside venture to more of a computer-based and maybe inside more of a venture over time.
It has. With the advent of GPS, and satellite imagery, really comes to the point of being able to extrapolate data from aerial photography or other data. Laser scanning, LiDAR data is all part of this is called remote sensing, is becoming a bigger and bigger part of the modern surveying or geodesist or geomatics.
Okay. Okay.
It's becoming much more computer driven, I would say.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
Jack, it would seem to me that we've been around a while. We've surveyed everything, surely by now.
That's
No
right.
problems with knowing where everything is, right?
You would think so. You would think so. But if you just, in the paper a couple of weeks ago, what was it, North Carolina and
South Carolina.
South Carolina
Yes, I
were
remember.
squabbling over their state boundary.
Yes.
And so boundaries are defined typically by monuments that get destroyed, they get buried, people forget where they are. Someone puts up a fence that doesn't follow the boundary line, and then their neighbor isn't happy with them. We're always doing new construction. So for a number of reasons, we always seem to need to reposition and relocate different items.
And there are new techniques, it sounds like, to be able to do that.
New techniques in a lot higher precision than we used to have.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Both of which sounds pretty important. Hugh, is this what since you sort of found yourself doing the profession a little bit, learning before you came here, how did you end up picking Oregon Tech?
Well, I'm an Oregon boy, born and bred, and when I was looking around at surveying schools, I didn't have a lot of options, and OIT is an ABET accredited survey program, 4-year degree, which allows me, once I get this degree, to go anywhere, and my education will be accepted anywhere in the U.S.
Okay.
Which, if I go to another school that isn't ABET accredited, that state could possibly take or leave my education.
Okay.
So that ABET accreditation was a huge pull for me, and coming down and speaking with the faculty down here and seeing how they set up, I was really attracted to the way they ran their classes also.
So what was it about that?
This is not a research institute. It's more about practice. It's about getting out in the field, actually doing work, having hands-on experience, which is huge. Because typically surveying has a pretty steep learning curve as you go along and you practice. And anytime a graduate can get a hands-on experience at doing some of the projects that they do here, whether it's designing a subdivision or designing a road or staking out, doing construction staking, or any of the many things that they do here, it allows the student to come to a future employer and almost have a much more seamless transition into an occupation.
Okay. Okay. Because of the experience, because of the breadth of different types of things, projects you've worked on.
That's right.
Okay. Outside and basically with computers and.
Absolutely. A lot of hands-on training.
Okay. And how soon, Jag, do you start the hands-on part of this in a curriculum?
the first term of your freshman year.
Really?
In Plane Surveying 1, we have them out doing some introductory work. So, and the hands-on labs follow them all the way through the curriculum, from their freshman year through their senior year. So I think a lot of people learn by doing. If you derive an equation on the blackboard, there's only a tiny number of people that really understand it.
Right.
The rest of them are kind of trying to they're wrestling with what does it mean, how does it work. When you go out and you gather data and you process it and you prepare plats and plans, all the pieces begin to fall into place and they begin to say, oh, now I see how that equation works.
I could have used this in my high school trigonometry, by the way.
That's
I know I could. I'm just sitting here thinking about that.
That's right. So.
Okay, that's very cool. Hugh, is it what you expected?
It is, and I am shocked at how much the program really aligns with what I had already previously learned in the profession.
Okay.
You know, it's tough coming in if you have no survey experience, thinking, well, am I learning everything? I'm actually going down the right direction, and everything just lined right up what I had previously learned in the profession.
Okay.
So it was, and I've spoken to many of the professors about this, that it's great, you know. It sets the student up with a foundation of tools in their toolbox that when they go out, a lot of times that stuff doesn't click until you're actually out in the profession. But by doing that and having all those tools, like I said, you get up to speed much quicker.
Okay. And we line up with the profession purposely, I assume.
Oh yes, that's by design.
Okay.
It
And,
is-
and how do we manage to do that? How do we keep pace with the change in the profession?
Chris, there's several things we do. All of the faculty are licensed. We all have several years of industry experience. In fact, one of our faculty, Professor Duryea, still has his own private practice.
Okay.
And does a lot of legal surveys. So we're in the rest of us work in industry periodically. I do a little bit of consulting. We have an industrial advisory committee with some of the top people in our profession in government agencies, private firms, and they're looking at curriculum with us and advising us, and they meet with students. So we try real hard to prepare graduates for a successful career.
Okay.
So try to design the theory and the laboratory exercises to prepare them for a career. Keep in touch with the graduates after they've left school, and ask for feedback, on what courses are most valuable, what skills did you learn, and what could we have done better. So we're always trying to improve the program.
That's terrific. That is really cool. So what do you see in the future? What's the big change you expect on the horizon coming?
Well, our technology is going to continue to change. And so we're always kind of chasing the rainbow, if you would.
Yes.
And GIS is actually a new technology. Our department has 2 degree options. We've had our surveying degree, which then became Geomatics, since 1947, when OIT was founded. But it wasn't until 2007 we offered our GIS degree. And GIS is continuing to evolve. Every agency and major firm in the United States will be using GIS technology to an increasing degree in the future. So counties are switching from paper-based products to GIS digital databases, and so our graduates will continue to see high technology evolving and being introduced and replacing existing technologies.
Very cool. So you have the dual major track. Are there minors that you could take? And on top of that as well, let's say again I'm in high school. Are there courses that would help me prepare to go into this field and be successful here?
Well, Chris, we have 2 minors now. We have a GIS minor, which a lot of the environmental science students are taking that minor. About a third of them take the GIS minor currently. And as of next year, we'll have a surveying minor. The surveying minor will be particularly attractive to the civil engineering students who are looking to maybe become dual licensed as an engineer and as a land surveyor.
Okay.
And for high school students, if you can take some algebra and trigonometry, maybe a geometry class, that would be really good preparation.
Okay.
So any of the mathematics, physics, if it works into your schedule, would help very much.
Okay. Right. You.
Yeah.
Tell me about the club. Tell me what the club does. I mean, what does a surveying club do?
Well, surveying club, well, we go out, turn a lot of angles. No, what we try to do is we try to provide content for the current geomatics students. We try to bring in speakers from the profession. We've had Oregon Department of Transportation come in. We've had the BLM come in. We've had the Force come in. We've had individuals from private firms come in and speak to the students about what's going on out there, about the different products out there. We've had Pacific Survey come in and demo some of the LiDAR and laser scanning. So we really want to have people from the industry come and actually speak to the students. We had Osbeals come in who spoke about licenseship and professional ethics. We'll also do a program on resumes, on networking, team building. We really are just trying to supplement the education they're getting here, to round them out, so to speak, to make them more of an all-around professional when they leave it, because a large portion of surveying is a small community, is not necessarily, I don't want to say it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it is. It's really knowing people and networking, and that's part of what we try to do. We also do an outreach in the community, do community projects where we can have our students outside of class time actually do some surveying.
Give me some examples of some of the volunteer work, it sounds like, and practice work that students have been doing.
Right. Well, we have a senior practicum, and typically club members are involved in helping that out. We also do, we help out with Boy Scouts earning, there's a surveyor merit badge that
cool.
we're involved in. Yes, and then there's also various little things around the community where they're staking something out. Here on campus, last year we surveyed in the ultimate Frisbee lines, little things like that get the students out and doing things. We're also involved in a national survey competition, the NSPS team. This year was actually held at the PLSO, the Professional Land Surveyors of Oregon Conference up in Portland. The previous year it was held at the Cal Nevada Conference down in Las Vegas. We typically try to send a team there for competing, and we had 8 teams involved this year. Okay. Competing all across the U.S. that came and competed together. So we try to promote that.
Tell me what the competition is. I mean, how do you describe a competition?
This competition has 3 parts. Typically, they'll give you a topic. This last year was GIS, survey applications of GIS.
Okay.
And then from there, you pick a project. You do a research project of some sort. You put together a research paper. Then you put together a poster, and then you do a presentation, a 25-minute presentation followed up with a discussion with the audience, and it's judged. And typically, the idea is that the paper and the project would be able to be published in a professional journal at the end.
Nice.
So, and this year, like I said, it was GIS. We had a team from Costa Rica come. We had a team from New Jersey, 2 teams from Michigan, 1 from Georgia, 1 from Alabama. So we had teams from all over that came and competed in that. I was involved in that team, and it's just an experience to go out and to meet other surveyors or students, I should say, across the nation and do a competition like that.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. And when you talk to the other students, you feel like that you're on track with the things that you know versus what they know, and
absolutely. And it's amazing. We're very fortunate at OIT that we have our GIS major and minor. But because of that topic, a lot of these colleges didn't even have a GIS program. This is their first introduction. Well, we have one. We have a bachelor's in GIS, and it allows our students to do quite a bit in that area.
That's cool. That's very cool. Jack, you must get contacted regularly for looking for students to do some volunteer kinds of things in the community.
We do, Chris, and for a long time we tried to do those as club projects, voluntary projects, but some of them are very large in extent.
Sure.
We have the A Canal, goes through Klamath Falls. It touches hundreds of parcels of land. It was built in 1905.
Wow.
And almost all of the land boundary monuments have been destroyed in that period of time. So the county surveyor, he said, our staff doesn't have the time and funding to resurvey miles of this boundary. No one else did, so they asked if we could do that.
Okay.
Well, this is going to be like a 5-year project for us, and it's something outside of the scope of the student club. So we started doing that in our senior practicum class.
Okay.
And so each year we would do a mile or so of the canal, and after several years, we had all the control done and we're working on the parcels. Bureau of Reclamation, the city, Professor Duryea was actually filing record of survey plats under his stamp. Wow. And everybody was so impressed with it that they actually found funding, and a private firm took it over and finished it.
Oh.
They said, you people are moving too slow. You're doing good work, but you're moving too slow.
Yeah.
So let's speed this up. So we actually have a lot of projects, real world projects we get our seniors involved with. Bureau of Land Management does a lot of small timber sales, and they don't have a local survey crew.
Okay.
So they have to send a travel crew down from Portland. They spend 2 or 3 weeks in a motel, try to do the survey work, and it winds up costing them $60,000, $70,000 to do a mile of line.
Wow.
And so our students can do that as a senior project. We actually wind up with a federal survey a BLM federal survey that our students have done.
That's fantastic.
So our students get a lot of real-world practice and exposure that I don't think students in any other geomatics program in the nation get that kind of experience.
And we were talking earlier before we went on the air about surveying with some of the trails locally.
Oh yes, yes.
And laying out where they go and their elevation changes and.
Yes. And one of the other projects was kind of unique, is at the Lava Beds National Monument. That they asked if we could do a laser scanning and make a 3D model of Mushpot Cave.
Okay.
And we've got that about 80% completed. They're going to put it on the internet as a virtual tour.
Oh, wow.
So anybody around the world can go to their site and then take a virtual tour of Mushpot Cave.
Okay. Now, how do you do that? Do you literally go in and in the cave?
You literally go in the cave and you have to set up this scanner that collects about 50,000 three-dimensional points a second.
Wow.
And you collect hundreds of millions of data points. We collect the photographs, the images of the cave with big lights to illuminate the cave, and then you drape the images on the 3D surface.
Okay.
So you actually see a realistic, photorealistic cave walls.
Wow.
And then we make a 3D tour down through the cave.
That's
so
fantastic.
It looks just like you're in the cave, walking down it, looking at the walls.
That is very cool.
It really is. It's something we can offer our students that very few programs can do that. So.
Now, do you survey in water as well?
Yes, you're right.
Can you do that?
we do that. One of the challenges of our profession, Chris, is that the average age of the land surveyor across the nation is about 57. So within the next decade or so, many surveyors will be retiring. And hydrographic surveying is a part of geomatics. And the Hydrographic Surveying Society sponsors 10 students a year to go to their national conference.
Okay.
And each year we send 1 or 2 students to that.
Okay.
And they're just trying to attract people to the hydrographic field. And one of our graduates that went to the conference is now in a master's degree in hydrographic surveying in Mississippi.
Oh, fantastic.
Going to work for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a whole area of surveying that is open to our graduates.
Excellent.
So the variety of careers that our graduates can pursue is pretty incredible.
Well, let's talk about careers. I mean, what awaits you at the end of all this? What do you hope to do? And what are the options that you know about?
Well, there's many options. Traditional surveying typically is boundary and boundary law, and also doing construction layout. I've done that previously. I enjoyed that. I know there's also high precision construction surveying and topographic surveying, such as laser scanning, also for the development and the checking of bridges, dams, all those type of things are out there. And that's actually where I'm sort of interested in, which probably would be a bigger firm. But there's also, it's really what you want to do. There are small firms that are survey firms that are mom and pops that you can do a little bit of everything. There are tremendously large firms such as David Evans or CH2M Hill, which is almost an international firm at that point, that if you want to go abroad and do surveying in other countries, the sky is really the limit on what you want to do. Professor Walker was speaking about hydrographic. David Evans had actually split their hydrographic surveying, got so big they actually split that portion off, and it's its own company now.
Wow.
And they go over and they do surveyings all around the world. So really, it's whatever your imagination is your limit on where you want to go with this career, because there's opportunities everywhere, and it's really easy to find. Hopefully, it's really easy to find a niche which suits you.
And I'll go back to something I commented on earlier. Some of the first alumni that I ran into were Geomatics alumni. And many of them had BLM, Bureau of Land Management background, or were currently working with BLM. And it seems like that there's an awful lot of opportunity in the federal side and state side as well, and even municipalities.
There is. And BLM has about 300 cadastral surveyors on their staff. Half of them are OIT graduates.
Wow.
And they actually prefer our graduates to most of the other programs. So, and again, the average BLM surveyor is close to retirement. So they're looking to attract more of our students in the future. So.
Okay. So if you had one thing to say to a prospective high school student, about geomatics, about it being exciting or boring or limited or expansive, what would you say?
I would say variety, that you can choose to live in an urban area, a rural area. You can choose to do legal research. You can choose to do mathematical positioning. You can choose to work outdoors to a great deal or exclusively in office or some combination. So there's a lot of variety that our profession has to offer. Okay. You don't live in a cubicle like the typical engineer.
Okay, very cool. And Hugh, to a prospective student coming to Klamath Falls, to Oregon Institute of Technology, what would you say?
To any student that comes in, to embrace the education. They offer a fine education here, but it's what you make of it.
Okay.
And you can go to school, you can clock in, you can clock out, you can get your grades, and when you leave school, you'll have a diploma, and that's about it. But when you're at school, and I think OIT provides this, is there's ample opportunities to expand that education. You get those ties to the community and get those ties to the profession. That'll help you not only when you start your career, but also be a better professional, a more well-rounded professional, I should say.
All of which goes with the whole hands-on approach. It's
Absolutely.
Sort of being able to really work closely with the faculty and take advantage of their knowledge and expertise.
Yes.
The story of our life here, and the small class size, I assume, has been a big help for that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a class that's over 20 typically. I know my senior practicum, there's 5 of us with our professor, but typically you're around, I'd say, 10 to 15 in a class. Mm-hmm. So it's very much one-on-one. You get to have a lot of small group interaction, working with your other students. Perfect. A lot of independent work, I should say, also.
Perfect. Jack, Hugh, I really appreciate your time, both of you, very much. It's great to learn about geomatics and such a dynamic, vibrant department, and one that really does have quite a national reputation out there. It's a very highly regarded department.
And we appreciate that.
No, it is. The faculty have made it quite clear that they have a level of expectation of their graduates, and the graduates meet those levels of expectation, and they take them out into the workforce and do really well. And so that reputation really continues to build over time. So I thank you for all the hard work that you guys do, and I look forward to handing you a degree here this coming the end of this term here.
Absolutely.
Since you're going to walk at the
That's right.
graduation.
Second week of June.
It's June 16th.
Something around there.
I'll be there.
I should have a countdown. I don't have.
Thank you both very much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us on Mondays with Maples, and hope to see you next time for whomever. We'll see. It'll be a surprise.